A loud crash split the air before anyone could react. People screamed. Metal twisted. A bus skidded violently across the road, smashing into a roadside stall, sending fruits, wood, and dust flying everywhere. In the middle of it all, a small boy stood frozen, his chest rising and falling rapidly, his eyes wide with fear. Just a few steps ahead of him, his grandmother. If he had obeyed her just 5 minutes earlier, she would have been right there, standing exactly where the bus had crashed. But he didn't listen. And somehow that disobedience had just saved her life. The boy's name was Tobi, and everyone in the neighborhood knew him for one thing: trouble.
Get down,
"Tobi, don't climb that fence!" his grandmother would shout. But Tobi would already be halfway over, laughing as if rules were a game meant to be broken. "Tobi, come back here right now! I'm coming!" he would reply, even as he ran in the opposite direction. He wasn't a bad child, not really, but he had a stubbornness that refused to bend. Instructions to him were suggestions, warnings were jokes, and consequences, well, he never thought that far. His grandmother, Mama Sadie, had raised him since he was a baby. She loved him deeply, but lately, that love was mixed with worry. "This boy," she would sigh to the neighbors, shaking her head, "one day, his stubbornness will put him in trouble. Tobi is just a child," one of them would say. Mama Sadie would respond quietly, "Yes, but the world is not patient with stubborn children." One afternoon, Tobi was chasing a ball down the street when it rolled into a shallow gutter filled with muddy water. "Don't touch that!" Mama Sadie shouted from the doorway. Tobi stopped, looked at her, and then slowly smiled. "What did I say?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. He shrugged. "It's just a ball. And that is just dirty water. Leave it." But Tobi stepped forward anyway. "Tobi!" He reached into the gutter, grabbed the ball, and pulled it out, splashing muddy water all over himself. Mama Sadie covered her face. "You see? You see what I'm talking about?" Tobi laughed, completely unbothered. "I got it, didn't I?" She walked up to him, her voice calm but firm. "Listen to me carefully. Not everything you disobey will end like this. One day, you will regret it." Tobi rolled his eyes. "Nothing will happen." She stared at him for a long moment as if trying to make him understand something deeper, but he had already turned away, kicking the ball again like nothing mattered. Days passed and nothing changed. If anything, Tobi became even more daring. He would sneak out when told to stay inside. He would climb trees that were clearly unsafe. He would talk back when corrected. But the worst part wasn't just that he disobeyed, it was that he didn't see anything wrong with it. One evening, as the sun dipped low and shadows stretched across the street, Mama Sadie called him inside. "Tobi, come here." He walked in slowly, dragging his feet. "What is it?" She sat on a wooden chair, looking more serious than usual. "Tomorrow, I have to go to the market early." "Okay, you will stay here." He sighed immediately. "Why?" "Because I said so." "That's not a reason." Her eyes hardened slightly. "It is enough of a reason. You will stay here. You will not follow me. You will not go outside. Do you understand?" Tobi crossed his arms. "But I want to come." "No." "Why?" "Because the road is busy in the morning. There are too many vehicles. It is not safe." "I'll be careful." "No, Tobi, you will stay here." He looked away, clearly unhappy. She leaned forward, her voice lower now, more intense. "This is not one of your games. I am serious. Stay. Inside." Tobi didn't respond. "Tobi, look at me." He slowly turned his head. "Promise me." He hesitated, then muttered, "Okay." "Say it properly." "I promise." She studied his face, searching for sincerity. But there was something in his eyes, something restless. That night, Tobi lay on his mat, staring at the ceiling. "Stay inside. Don't follow me." His grandmother's voice echoed in his head. He turned to the side, frowning. Why was she always so strict? It wasn't like anything bad ever happened. "I'll just go a little," he whispered to himself. "She won't even know." Morning came quickly. Mama Sadie woke up before sunrise, quietly preparing to leave. She moved carefully, trying not to wake him. But Tobi was already awake. His eyes were half closed as he watched her tie her wrapper and pick up her bag. "You're awake?" she asked softly. He nodded. "Remember what I said?" "I remember." She walked over and placed a gentle hand on his head. "Be a good boy today." He didn't reply. She left the house, closing the door behind her. For a few minutes, Tobi stayed still. Then he sat up. "I'll just follow her from far," he said under his breath. He got up, quietly opened the door, and slipped outside. The morning air was cool. The streets were just beginning to fill with people, traders, cyclists, buses rumbling in the distance. He spotted his grandmother ahead, walking steadily toward the market. A small smile formed on his face. "She walks too slow," he whispered, and began to follow. At first, it felt like an adventure. He hid behind walls, ducked behind parked cars, and laughed quietly each time she almost turned around. But as they got closer to the main road, things changed. The traffic grew heavier. Horns blared, engines roared, people shouted. Tobi slowed down slightly, his eyes darting around. His grandmother stepped closer to the roadside, waiting for a chance to cross. Tobi stopped behind a small kiosk, watching her. "Maybe I should go back," he murmured. But then she started crossing. Without thinking, Tobi stepped out from his hiding spot. "Grandma!" he shouted. She turned immediately, startled. "Tobi?" Her voice was sharp with shock. "What are you doing here?" He froze. Before he could finish, she rushed toward him, grabbing his arm tightly. "Didn't I tell you to stay at home?" "I just wanted to—" A loud horn blared. Both of them turned. And in that moment, everything happened at once. The bus lost control. Tires screeched. People screamed. Mama Sadie's eyes widened as she realized exactly where she had been standing just seconds ago. And now, because she had turned back toward Tobi, she wasn't there anymore. The crash exploded into the street. Wood shattered, metal collided, chaos swallowed the road. Tobi's grip tightened around her hand. Neither of them spoke. They just stood there, staring at the destruction, and slowly, painfully, the realization began to sink in. Dust hung in the air like a thick curtain, making it hard to see clearly. People were shouting, some running toward the crash, others running away from it. The sound of crying mixed with the distant hiss of the damaged bus engine. Tobi's heart pounded so loudly he could hear it in his ears. Mama Sadie didn't move. Her hand was still gripping his arm, but not out of anger anymore. It was something else now. Shock, fear, disbelief. That is where I was standing," she whispered, almost to herself. Tobi looked at her, confused at first. Then he slowly turned his gaze back to the crash site. The exact spot where she had been waiting just moments ago was now completely destroyed. Wooden planks were scattered across the ground. A fruit stall had been crushed flat. The front of the bus was buried deep into what used to be a small roadside stand. If she hadn't turned back, if he hadn't called her, if he had obeyed, his stomach tightened. Mama Sade slowly released his arm, her fingers trembling slightly. She took a small step forward, then stopped again, as if her legs suddenly felt too weak to carry her. "Tobi," she said softly. He didn't answer. "Tobi, look at me." He lifted his eyes slowly. For the first time, there was no anger in her face, no frustration, just something raw, something shaken. "Why did you follow me?" she asked quietly. Tobi swallowed. His voice came out small. I just wanted to come with you." She stared at him for a moment, searching his face as if trying to understand everything at once. "You disobeyed me," she said. He nodded, his head lowering. "I told you to stay at home." "I know. And you still came. I'm sorry." The words hung between them, heavy and uncertain. Mama Sade looked back at the crash again. People were already trying to pull someone out from under the broken wood. Others were shouting for help. Her chest rose slowly as she took in the full reality of what had just happened. Then she did something unexpected. She reached out and pulled Tobi into a tight embrace. He froze for a second, surprised. I thought I lost my life just now," she whispered, her voice breaking slightly. Tobi's arms slowly wrapped around her. "I'm sorry," he repeated, this time his voice shaking. She held him tighter. "You didn't listen," she said softly. "But you saved me." Toby's eyes widened slightly. Saved her? The word didn't sit right in his chest. It didn't feel like something he deserved. I didn't mean to, he said quickly. I wasn't trying to, I know, she interrupted gently. She pulled back, placing both hands on his shoulders. But if you had stayed at home, I would have been there. Toby looked again at the wreckage. This time, he didn't just see broken wood and metal. He saw what could have happened. And suddenly, the weight of it hit him. His breathing became uneven. I didn't think, he muttered. That is the problem, Mama Sade said, her tone still calm but firm. You don't think before you act. Toby lowered his head again, but this time it wasn't out of stubbornness. It was shame. They stood there for a while, watching as people continued to gather. Someone shouted that help was on the way. Another person was calling for water. Mama Sade took a deep breath and gently held Toby's hand. Let's go home, she said. He didn't argue. The walk back was quiet. No jokes, no complaints, no running ahead. Just silence. Toby kept replaying the moment in his head. The horn, the turn, the crash. Every time the same thought followed. If I had listened... His chest tightened again. But then another thought came, just as strong. If I had listened, she wouldn't be here. He didn't know which one made him feel worse. When they got home, Mama Sade sat down slowly on her chair, as if the strength had drained from her body. Toby stood near the doorway, unsure of what to do. The house felt different now. Quieter, heavier. After a few minutes, she spoke. Come here. He walked over slowly. She looked up at him, her expression softer now, but still serious. Toby, do you understand what happened today? He nodded slightly. Yes. Tell me. He hesitated, then spoke carefully. If I didn't follow you, you would have been there when the bus crashed. She nodded. And why were you not there? He swallowed. Because I called you. And why did you call me? He looked down. Because I disobeyed you. Silence filled the room again. Mama Sade sighed deeply. This is not something to be proud of, she said gently. Do you understand that? I do. You cannot say, I disobeyed and something good happened, and think it is always like that. Toby nodded again. Today you were lucky, she continued. Very lucky. He clenched his fists slightly. But next time, she asked quietly, will luck be there for you? He didn't answer. Will luck protect you from danger? She pressed. No, he whispered. Will luck fix your mistakes? No. She leaned back slightly, her voice softer now. Then what should you learn from today? Toby took a deep breath. That I should listen. She nodded slowly. And? That not everything will end well. She watched him carefully, then gave a small approving nod. For the first time, it felt like he truly understood. Not just the words, but the meaning behind them. That evening, Toby sat outside alone, staring at the ground. Usually, he would be running around, playing, laughing, but not today. His mind kept going back to the crash. The noise, the fear in his grandmother's voice. The way she held him like she almost lost him, or maybe like she almost lost herself. He hugged his knees tightly. I don't want that to happen again, he whispered. From inside the house, Mama Sade watched him quietly through the window. She didn't call him. She didn't interrupt. She could see it in the way he sat. Something had changed. Not completely, but enough to matter. Later that night, as they prepared to sleep, Toby walked up to her slowly. Grandma. She looked at him. Yes? I'm really sorry. She smiled faintly. I know. I won't do it again. She tilted her head slightly. You won't disobey again? He hesitated. Then he shook his head. I'll try. Not to. That made her smile a little more. Trying is a good place to start, she said. He nodded. As he lay down that night, the events of the day still lingered in his mind. But this time, they didn't feel confusing. They felt clear. For the first time, Toby understood something important. Being stubborn wasn't strength. Ignoring instructions wasn't bravery. And sometimes, the difference between danger and safety was just one decision. The next morning, when Mama Sade called him, something unusual happened. Toby, come and sweep the front. He paused for a second. Then he answered, Okay, no argument, no delay. She raised an eyebrow, slightly surprised. He came out, picked up the broom, and started sweeping. Slowly. carefully. Mama Sadie watched him, a small, quiet smile forming on her lips. Change doesn't always come loudly. Sometimes it begins in silence. And for Tobi, that silence marked the beginning of something new, something better, something stronger than stubbornness, understanding, respect, and the quiet knowledge that one moment, one single act, had changed everything. And even though his disobedience had saved a life, he finally understood why it was never something to rely on again. The days that followed didn't feel the same. At first, the change was small, so small that anyone who didn't pay attention might have missed it. But Mama Sadie noticed. She always did. Tobi, close the door. Okay. No delay. No sigh. No later. Just, okay. The first time it happened, she looked at him twice, as if waiting for the usual resistance, but it didn't come. Instead, he simply did what he was told. Tobi himself didn't fully understand what was happening inside him. It wasn't like he suddenly became perfect. The urge to ignore, to argue, to do things his own way, it was still there. But now something else stood in its place. A memory. The loud crash. The fear in his chest. The way his grandmother's voice trembled when she said she thought she had lost her life. That memory followed him everywhere. One afternoon, while playing with his friends, a boy dared him. Tobi, climb that mango tree. I bet you can't reach the top. Before, he wouldn't have even thought twice. He would have already been halfway up, laughing. But this time, he looked at the tree, then back at his friends. My grandma said not to climb high trees, he said. The boys laughed. Since when do you listen? Did she tie you with rope at home? Another mocked. Tobi felt the familiar heat rise in his chest. The old him wanted to prove them wrong, to show them he wasn't afraid. His foot even moved slightly toward the tree. Then, the sound of the crash echoed in his mind again. He stepped back. I'm not doing it, he said firmly. His friends groaned. You've changed. Tobi didn't respond. Maybe he had. And maybe that wasn't a bad thing. Later that evening, Mama Sadie returned from the market with a small bag. Tobi, come and help me carry this inside. He rushed over immediately. Let me take it. She raised an eyebrow again. What? He asked. Nothing, she replied, but her smile said everything. Inside, as they arranged the items, she glanced at him. You didn't go out to cause trouble today? He shook his head. No. No broken fences, no muddy clothes? He smiled faintly. No. She nodded slowly, almost as if she was still adjusting to this new version of him. You are trying, she said. I said I would. She placed a hand on his shoulder. And I can see it. That night, as they ate together, the atmosphere felt lighter. Not forced. Not tense. Just peaceful. But peace doesn't mean life stops testing you. A few days later, Mama Sadie had to go out again, this time to visit someone in the next street. Tobi, she called, tying her wrapper. Yes? I will be back soon. Stay inside. He nodded. Okay. She paused, studying him carefully. Are you sure? He met her eyes. I'm sure. There was no hesitation this time. No hidden plan. Just a simple answer. She gave a small nod and left. The door closed behind her. Tobi stood in the middle of the room for a moment. The silence returned. Stay inside. The words came back again, just like before. But this time, they didn't feel like a restriction. They felt like a choice. He walked to the window and looked outside. Children were playing. A ball rolled past the house. Someone laughed loudly. For a brief second, the old urge returned. Just a quick run outside. She won't even know. He stepped toward the door. His hand touched the handle. Then he stopped. His grip tightened slightly. No, he whispered to himself. He stepped back, slowly, deliberately, and sat down. Minutes passed. Then more. When Mama Sadie returned, she opened the door and found him exactly where she had left him, sitting, waiting. She didn't say anything immediately. She just looked at him. You didn't go out? She finally asked. No. Not even once? He shook his head. A soft smile spread across her face. Good, she said simply. But the word carried more weight than anything else. That evening, as the sun dipped again, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Mama Sadie sat outside with Tobi beside her. You know, she began slowly, people may say you saved my life. Tobi looked down. But I disobeyed you. Yes, she said. There was no denying it. But what matters now is what you choose to do after that moment. He listened quietly. You can either say, my disobedience worked once, so I will keep doing it. She paused. Or you can say, I was lucky once, but I will not risk it again. Tobi nodded slowly. I choose the second one, he said. She smiled. That is how you become wiser. A gentle breeze passed between them. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Mama Said added, being a hero is not about one big moment. Tobi looked up at her. It is about the small choices you make every day. He thought about that. The small choices. Listening. Waiting. Thinking before acting. Maybe. That was harder than climbing fences or breaking rules. But it felt stronger. The next morning, something unexpected happened. A neighbor came rushing down the street. Mama Sade! Mama Sade! She stood up quickly. What is it? There's trouble near the main road. Another accident almost happened. A child ran into the street. Mama Sade's expression changed instantly. Is the child okay? Yes, but it was close. Tobi's heart skipped a beat. Close! That word again. Without thinking, he stepped closer to his grandmother. This time, he didn't feel brave. He felt aware. Aware of how quickly things could go wrong. Aware of how small decisions could change everything. Mama Sad noticed his movement and gently placed a hand on his head. You see? She said softly. He nodded. Yes, he replied. And this time, his voice carried something new. Not stubbornness, not defiance, but understanding. That same boy who once laughed at warnings, now listened to them. That same boy who once ran toward trouble, now stepped back from it. And even though people might still remember him as the naughty child who disobeyed, there was another truth, a deeper one. His disobedience had saved a life, but his change, that was what truly made him a hero. As the camera of the mind slowly fades on that quiet street, with Tobi sitting beside his grandmother, calmer, wiser, and stronger than before. Remember this. Not every mistake gives you a second chance. Not every act of disobedience ends in a miracle. Sometimes the difference between regret and relief is simply listening. If this story made you think even for a moment, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. And tell me in the comments, have you ever made a mistake that changed your life forever? Because sometimes the biggest lessons come from the moments we almost got it wrong.